What's going on out there? Welcome into the Impact Lounge. You are in the number one place to be for the Impact Wrestling fan. This is the Cool Factor Podcast. I'm your host, TW. And of course, we got the man with the plan with us, the owner, operator, barback, DJ, table dancer at the Impact Lounge, Mr. BQ. BQ, say what's up to the people.
Yo, you know, I wouldn't know what a barback was if I wasn't a bouncer for 3 months out of my life. That was the first time I ever became familiar with that term. And I was like, someone said the barback's like, what the fuck's that? So otherwise I would just
tip you out at the end of the night. Someplace they do, someplace they don't.
Do they what tip?
Yeah, they tip you at the end of the night.
No, hell no, dude. The bartenders DJ nothing. So that job didn't last long. It was just a part-time gig that I was doing. But no.
But that was funny because it's one of those gigs where you can spend 3 hours doing nothing, and then the 15 minutes that you actually have to work can be hell.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was years ago I worked there, and I'm still friends with a lot of those people on Facebook, and they're still working, doing the same job at the bar. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. That's what's up. This is, but to transition to Impact, dude, I'm excited to talk about this episode because I have to apologize to everyone. You guys know I'm just the king of technical snafus, and last week's episode was streaming perfect on our end. I don't know what happened, but when it hit about the hour mark, the video started skipping, and it wasn't my software. It was the actual video itself. And I had actually put the podcast on the streaming networks, which I had been bad about doing because a lot of our Zoom feeds have been choppy. And it's one thing on YouTube when you can see a little bit of freezing. Okay, they got a bad Zoom, but it doesn't sound good on streaming. So I've been hesitant to put on streaming, the streaming networks, and I had to pull it down from YouTube and from all the streaming platforms just because when it hit that part, it just sounded really bad. And I've never had that issue before to where I had a half hour of like skipping. We'd talk and then it'd skip forward 10 seconds and then just do that for about half an hour. So pretty brutal. So I felt really bad for those who didn't get a chance to check the episode out. So I was looking forward to getting back on here with you this week and talk this episode, which on paper to me didn't look good because we have seen all these matches before that they had on this card, every single one. There was nothing fresh on this show, but it was a good show. It actually caught me off guard how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So real quick, before we get into our content today, we need y'all to go ahead and do a couple things for us. Hit the like button. Go ahead. I'll wait. Boom. Okay, good. Hit that like button. And listen, every few minutes, if you like what we're saying, go ahead and hit that like button again because everyone needs to know how much you like this video. Hit the subscribe button so that you're subscribed to the Impact Lounge and hit the notification bell so that you get notified each and every time we drop some new fire content on this page. All right. So with that out of the way, BQ, I think the biggest news outside of the ring, outside of the Impact Zone this week was the Bound for Glory announcement. We got two important pieces of information on Bound for Glory. One, the location, and two, a special start time. So we found out that the location is going to be Sam's Town Casino in Las Vegas, and the start time is going to be 10 p.m. This felt weird to me. I'm not going to lie. This felt weird to me. My initial impression here was, you know, if you're starting at 10, like why? And then I think I heard you. Actually, I found out about this by seeing the upload that you did about the Bound for Glory start time. And then you mentioned that this was going to be a start time they were doing because there's an AEW show earlier in the evening. And to me, my first instinct was like, man, this is gross. Like, how much are you going to play little brother to AEW? Like, you know, everybody complains so much about the imbalance in the Impact AEW working relationship. And I maintain the whole time that people were just looking at this the wrong way, that this wasn't about AEW making Impact look better versus Impact making AEW look better. This is about AEW's talent making the Impact product more attractive, right? But I gotta be honest, man. There's just more and more of these little things that it just, it feels like Impact is willingly taking a little brother role, a backseat to AEW. And I don't know how beneficial it is. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. If this pay-per-view is starting at 10 o'clock East Coast time, I'm not staying up to watch it. I am not. I work early on Monday morning, and I'm not staying up till 1:30, 2 a.m.
Well, I think it's on a Saturday, isn't it?
Is it
Bound
on
for
Saturday?
Glory?
Okay, that helps, but I'm probably still not staying up. My kids have soccer early on Sunday morning, so
absolutely.
I'm not. I mean, I'm just saying that start time is that's going to be a no for me, dog. So, what was your thoughts with these Bound for Glory announcements?
So I'm trying to look it up here, but I don't want to be buried in my phone, so people will probably correct us. But I want to say it's on a Saturday because that's why AEW has a show. Because every once in a while they bump Dynamite to Saturday when something is going on sports related during the week. So AEW in a sense is doing the same thing. They're running from the NFL or whatever it is, but I get it because the NFL has just millions of viewers that watch the show. So I don't remember exactly what they're running up against, but I totally agree with you. It's playing a little brother role. And I know we've talked ad nauseum and many of the fans have talked about Impact looking inferior to AEW. And it continues to happen every week. I mean, the Good Brothers come out on their show, and I would say it's about 50-50 that they announce them as the Impact Tag Team Champions. Right. They wrestled a match not too long ago, and they didn't even announce them as the Impact Tag Team Champions.
Crazy.
But then I thought about it when I was watching All Out, and Moxley had the match with the fellow from Japan. I'm not familiar with any Japanese wrestlers whatsoever, so I'm not going to pretend to be. And Moxley beat him. And then they did an angle after the match with another Japanese fellow, and they had a match on Dynamite, and Moxley beat him too. And then I thought about it. I said, you know what? AEW is doing this to New Japan as well, because New Japan, I want to say, has had 3 people on Dynamite, and not one of them have won a match. Ooh. I think they've all 3 been against Moxley. He's beat all 3 of them. So, you could argue they're doing the same thing to them. Thunder Rosa was probably the exception when she was a part of NWA, but I'm rabbit trailing a little bit there, but we don't know the reason. I haven't spoken to anyone about it. We just are assuming it has to do with AEW. They're trying to church it up. It's a special start time. At one point, Matt Striker and D'Lo were trying to sell us on why it's a good thing.
Yeah, I heard that. I was like, come on, man.
It reminded me of when TNA lost the Spike TV deal, and Dixie Carter tried to spin it that it was a good thing, and say that, oh well, in order to take a step backwards, we got to take a step. I mean, in order to take a step forward, we got to take a step backwards first. That's what she was saying about
it was just
going to Destination.
A very long step.
Going to Destination America. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. So I don't think it should be run. Now I get it. Dynamite it's pretty much now you're pretty much guaranteed like 1 million viewers. I get that, but Bound for Glory is still a pay-per-view. If someone's going to purchase Bound for Glory, they're not going to be like, you know what? Let me watch Dynamite instead that night. I get it's a much bigger, much more popular company, but the chances of something outside of Bray Wyatt debuting on AEW is really probably not worth skipping Bound for Glory for. I don't know if you like totally agree with that, but
well, I mean, speaking of AEW, here's where I am actually going to give Impact a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because if you've been listening to our content, that the most frustrating thing for me when it comes to Impact is the lack of tangible growth. You know what I mean? Playing bigger arenas, having more fans there, increase in production value, those type of things. I feel like those things, they're frustrating because they would signify growth for Impact Wrestling, and we're not seeing those things. But the one thing where you have to give Impact the benefit of the doubt is when it comes to storytelling. Because in the Callis D'Amore, now just D'Amore regime, they have been very good to excellent when it comes to storytelling. I mean, everything outside of Tessa posting up in Mexico and not sending back promos. Like, they've been really tight with the storytelling. For that, and the Ethan Page thing was a little wonky. But again, for the most part, they've been really good when it comes to telling good stories under this current regime. So I think there's a chance that the relationship with AEW could play into this later start time for Impact, because there could be some sort of lead-in from AEW to Bound for Glory. There could be something that happens on AEW that points people in the direction of Bound for Glory. Now, if we're talking about something that's going to get the pay-per-view buys up, it would have to be something massive. It'd have to be something like kind of right at the end of the show, with the idea being people are going to turn off the AEW show and then turn on Impact, click in to buy, Fight TV, whatever. So it would have to be some sort of really massive angle. I don't know that that's what's happening, but if they are moving the pay-per-view later to accommodate AEW, then maybe there's some assistance coming from that larger AEW audience.
Yeah, I think it's ideally that would be wonderful. I think it's kind of wishful thinking to think that AEW is really going to help the Bound for Glory show out like that. It just doesn't. I know they did it once before with Don Callis tuning into Impact Wrestling this week, Yeah. But we haven't got anything remotely close to that. I mean, at one point they had Kenny wrestling at Hard to Kill, with Rich Swann potentially showing up on Dynamite with their world title, and they didn't promote even the slightest bit. So I just have a hard time saying, they're going to be on board and lead into it. I think it is. It's certainly a bit of wish casting, but I'm just trying to think of ways that this could possibly be a positive, and that's really the only way I could think of. Because I tell you what, I say it again, ain't no way I'm staying up for. It's not that I would just be in bed at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, but I'm not gonna plan to be up watching a pay-per-view at 10 o'clock going into Sunday morning. I'm just not. I'm not either.
And honestly, that's more about Impact Wrestling and making your content must see, making it feel compelling. If there was something I had to see going on, yeah, I would watch live at 10 o'clock. But I don't feel like there's anything that I necessarily have to stop what I'm doing and be up at 10 o'clock. Again, planning to be up for another 3 hours from 10 o'clock. They haven't sold me to that extent yet.
I mean, I'll put it like this. Being a Clippers fan, when they play on TNT, the games usually start at like 10 or 10:30 my time, or 9:30 my time, something like that, pretty late. And to be totally honest, I like basketball a lot more than I like wrestling. And I won't stay up and watch their games unless maybe it's like like this year in the playoffs, they went pretty deep. That was a different story. But if it's a normal like game that they're on, I'm just like, dude, that's not happening. So
same thing, dog. I love the Lakers. Okay. And I live one time zone farther east than you. So right. Most times I'm not doing it, bro. I'm not doing it. Like I'll catch the first half maybe, but I can't do it, bro. I can't do it. I'm not like gonna be sitting there like, I was not doing it. So
yeah, my TV's in my bedroom, so it just I mean, now for the people on the West Coast and Mountain Time Zone, even, it's whatever. I remember growing up on the West Coast, and I would be watching actually this crossed my mind the other day when the NBA draft came on a couple months ago, and I was like, dude, what time's this shit started? Like 8, like it was late. But I remember as a kid watching the draft, and it started at like 5 o'clock, and I said,
right,
this is cool. Like I enjoyed that. It was a big change for me when I moved, but it was also as I got a little bit older and would like work, it would cut things a little close for me to catch major events. I'd have to rush home. So, I don't know. I think it obviously benefits people on the West Coast because they don't have to, if you work a 9 to 5, which I don't know why they call it 9 to 5. No one actually works the hours of 9 to 5, but sign me up for that. But I don't think people have to do the same. Granted, it's on a Saturday, but I think that's a very comfortable start time, is what I'm trying to say. If you live on that side of the country, now people in the UK, I didn't even think about this. Someone left a comment on my video saying, "Well, this is like 3 a.m. here start time." Like that's even worse. Like it's probably one thing for them to watch it at midnight or something like that. I mean, okay, there's some people here in the United States that watch the New Japan pay-per-views at like 3-4 in the morning, which good for you. I'm not going to do that. But
yeah, it feels like Impact is kicking a lot of fans in the nuts with this start time. So they better have something good planned.
Yeah, absolutely. They're trying to church it up like it's a good thing, but it's not.
Yeah. All right. What else was there outside of the ring that we like this week?
Dude, I think we should talk about the Brian Cage situation because there's been on Twitter, his wife has kind of been talking about, well, Brian Cage should be, it's just her opinion. And of course, fans are completely coming at her that they're not using him correctly in AEW. I personally liked him as a part of Team Taz. I thought breaking him off was a really, really bad idea. And apparently she does too. Or apparently she doesn't like what they're doing with him at all, period. They gave him a world title match, his second match of the company, and he lost. So that wasn't really wasn't too good for his trajectory, but it gets people talking again. Well, Impact was building him as this top star. I happen to know that Melissa Santos had a lot of interest, at least from what I was told. I can't totally speak for her, but I was told that she had a lot of interest in remaining at Impact when Brian Cage's contract came up, because she was a big fan of the schedule. The AEW schedule is still, you're talking about a couple days a week. At the time Brian Cage signed, it was just 1 day a week. But traveling 4 times a month compared to traveling once a month is a big difference. So I know she was a fan of that schedule. So I don't know. You've never been a Brian Cage guy. No. So I don't know if you have any issue with the way AEW's handled her
specific tweets. Like what? Because I don't look. We can talk about the concept of whether or not Brian Cage has been used or misused, but I feel like I'd rather talk about like what did she actually say or tweet.
I can pull that up here.
Yeah.
While I'm doing that, I listen to a lot of Jim Cornette. I don't agree with much that he says, but he just makes me laugh. That is strictly the reason that I listen to him. And I know that he is not a Brian Cage fan. A lot of what he says is that Cage comes across nothing seems very natural in his matches. Like it just seems everything is very choreographed, all the moves. Like something like he'll say about the Young Bucks, but it's just different with a guy of Brian Cage's size. Like he just doesn't care for his ring psychology at all. So she has a lot of tweets at this because she's kind of pulling like whether it was Reby Hardy type of situation where she's like, oh, the haters coming at me, and almost egging people on,
Yeah. So, all right. So
she dropped the video, so I can't read her exact words.
Okay. But the gist of it was her saying that Brian Cage is underused, right?
Correct.
Or not being used well in AEW, right?
Right.
Okay,
right.
Well, let's take a look at it, right? Brian Cage debuted in the, I think, Casino Battle Royal, right? He was like the surprise entrant, the Joker entrant, and he won the Battle Royal. By the way, I think he promptly powerbombed somebody through a table, and it looked very unsafe.
I think it was Darby Allin.
No, yeah, well, typical. And
I will say he feuded with Darby Allin and beat him, and nobody beats Darby Allin. Like Darby Allin never loses. He lost to CM Punk, but he loses to nobody.
He also doesn't he have a victory over somebody. Is it Hangman Page?
Yeah, Page.
He has a victory over Hangman Page. They built Team Taz around him. They gave him a title shot, and he promptly lost to Jon Moxley, but then they gave him that FTW title. So they've done a lot to try and build around I was about to call him Jon Moxley. They've done a lot to try and build around Brian Cage. Here's the thing. Here's the reality. Brian Cage he's okay. He's okay. He's not that special. He looks like $1 million, but he wrestles like Darby Allin, and he's huge. And there's no I know you think it's cute. I know you think it's cute. I'm this big, muscly wrestler, and I wrestle like I'm 5'4", 125 pounds. But it's not cute. It's not cute. You don't come off as in the imposing, dominating wrestler that you should. You don't. So, I mean, he's okay, right? He looks like a pro wrestler, which is more than I can say for so many guys who work for AEW, right? He has a great look, and he can do some great things. But when's the last time you can honestly say you enjoyed a Brian Cage match?
Well, I think you and I are different in that sense, because I think I do enjoy most of his matches. I think I see the criticism people have of him, or that, Jim Cornette, when I'm talking about having him.
So tell me the match. What's the match that
dude? I mean, I liked his match with Michael Elgin. I liked his match with I thought his steel cage match with Sami Callihan was good. I liked his. If we're talking about the AEW stuff, I liked his match with Hangman Page a lot. The second one, the one he lost, that was the one that started the tension with Team Taz. I can't say I'm not gonna say I have a top 10
that span about 4 years of time.
Fair enough, because I'm not gonna say I got like a top 10, but I mean,
okay, that's what I'm saying. And everywhere this guy goes, because of the way he looks, they treat him like, oh my God, you're my next big thing, right? You know what I mean? And then they get him out there, and he's okay. He's okay, right? Like, one of the things about Brian Cage is everything looks very staged, right? Like, what's the Eagles? All right, like he has like his and it doesn't. It all looks super rehearsed, like very little emotion to it. And look, I'm not a wrestler. I've never trained wrestling. I never took a bump, as everyone like. You know what I mean? Like, I don't claim to know how to wrestle, but I am a TV producer, and I've watched wrestling for over 30 years. Okay, so as a fan, I know what's interesting and what's not. So you can take all the bumps you want to, but it's not going to change the fact that from this side of the screen, what I think matters. Okay,
right?
Because I'm the person who tweets whether I like what you do or not. I'm the person who's going to buy your stuff or not buy your stuff. I'm the person who's going to buy the pay-per-view or not buy the pay-per-view. So you can keep trying to say that what fans think don't matter, but it does matter, because without the fans, there's no you. Okay, it is what it is. I'm not saying there's no you, like you would still exist as a human, but there will be no money to fund the operation that you're working in. Okay, it is what it is. It is what it is. So you can try to say fans don't matter all you want to. The truth is, fans matter a lot, because without fans, there's no money. Okay,
right? Because we know what we see, we know what we like, what we don't like.
Right. Exactly. So look, man. Like I said, Brian Cage is okay. I'm not gonna say he's bad, but again, he's someone who gets treated like he's a feature player, right? When Impact changed over, like, oh, we'll let Lashley and EC3 go because we got Brian Cage.
Yep, that's exactly what they did.
Build us up some Brian Cage, right? Then they built up their Brian Cage. And then what happened? The best line I ever heard another wrestler say about Brian Cage was Sami Callihan said, "You're the machine. You're like the ice cream machine at McDonald's because you're always broken down," right? Like, Brian Cage got some sort of injury about halfway through his match with John Morrison, and John Morrison carried him for the rest of that match. And he did not have another good match as the Impact champion until Sami Callihan carried him to 2 decent matches. Okay, that's it, and that's the truth. That's my opinion, but my opinion is the truth. So, I mean, look, man, Brian Cage, he's okay, but I don't think you can complain that Brian Cage is being underused, because all people do is put Brian Cage in the top spot. Every time somebody sees Brian Cage, they see money. And what they get back is probably not a good return on their investment. Otherwise, you wouldn't be dropping down the card every time we look up.
Yeah, and I think it's going to hurt him that they broke him off from Team Taz, where he had a mouthpiece, because now he is Now he has to talk. And that's where a lot of people get
No, he can just do
bored.
this.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I mean, I've always kind of liked the dude, and I don't think he's like this horrible promo that people think he is, but there's a lot of people who don't connect with his promos. I wouldn't give him a mic in the middle of the ring. You know what I mean? I'd do some backstage stuff with him, but I wouldn't have him step out there and grab a mic and start talking by any stretch. But now he's going to be forced to talk. So it'll be interesting to see, what they do.
I mean, look, man, it is what it is. The thing about television, right? And wrestling is television, right? The thing about television is it's the job of the writers and producers to put the talent in a position to succeed. Mm-hmm. So if you know what your talent can do well, you have to put them in a position to do that. Okay. If I had a talent like Brian Cage, if I was doing a wrestling show, I mean, yeah, I mean, like I put him in a position to sit around and look mean. I tell him to, calm down the luchador shit in your matches because you're a very big muscly human, and do more power stuff, right? Break out the lucha stuff once in a while to look surprising, but whatever. Otherwise, go out there and dominate. But for whatever reason, man, he's gotten lost in the shuffle in AEW. Okay, he has, but he's been given. Has he not been given a ton of chances? A ton of feature spots. Again, he has victories over Darby Allin, Hangman Page. He won that Casino Battle Royal thing. Like, they've put him in the feature spot. They put him with Team Taz. The first story, the only story they've done with Team Taz is the breakup of Team Taz to get Brian Cage on the opposite side, right? So that they could have the idea of Cage versus some sort of heel faction, right? And whatever, maybe Tony Khan got bored with it or whatever, but their TV time has been less and less and less. But I also contend that if you were more interesting, your segments would be on TV more. Okay. Mm-hmm. So who does Brian Cage or Brian Cage's significant other really have to blame for Brian Cage not being on TV more? He's gotten plenty of shots. Right? Like, I complain that AEW doesn't feature enough black talent, which, by the way, there was a great match this week with Hobbs and Dante Martin. Hobbs got knocked silly on a dive by Dante Martin, who's probably one of the most exciting wrestlers out there. But I see like a guy like, Max Caster, right? Who his entrance where he does the rapping and getting the heat with his rhymes. To me, that's one of the most interesting things anybody on AEW TV does, and he's buried on their YouTube shows 9 out of 10 times, right? So somebody who is very interesting and crowd interactive, I'm talking about Max Caster now, right, is not getting chances to be on TV compared to Brian Cage, who, as we just detailed, has had every chance to be featured on AEW TV. So you want to talk about complaining about being misused? It's falling on deaf ears with me. Like, do you just want this guy to just keep featured in the main event week in and week out and title shot week in and week out? And, you've gotten the TV time. And here's the thing. When's the last time you went online and saw somebody not married to Brian Cage talking about Brian Cage?
Yeah. Back when, I say back when, I've been doing this YouTube channel forever. I'm familiar with what wrestlers get traction and what don't when it comes to video hits and everything. And Brian Cage wasn't one of them. Even if you look at Brian Cage's Twitter, his Twitter following, once you're a part of AEW, blows up. But when he was up, Impact champion, like, his Twitter following was not high. His Twitter engagement was not high. I've always noticed that about him.
There it is. So this man, again, and just to recap class, okay, this man has been given feature positions in AEW already. They brought him in, won the Casino Battle Royal. They gave him the FTW championship, built the Team Taz story around him, did the breakup of Team Taz or him separated from Team Taz just to put him versus a heel faction. That's him. Like, in football, when you see 3 receivers on one side and 1 receiver on the other side, that's a diversion to get the ball to the 1 receiver side, Okay, I don't know if you guys know that, but it's when they do the breakup of the group and one guy gets singled out, that's a diversion to feature the guy who got singled out. Okay, Brian Cage has been given feature opportunities, and again, what has he done with him? Again, who do you see online in your Twitter feeds, in your Facebook groups, talking about Brian Cage? Who? I found a new day. Who is out here talking about Brian Cage? Because nobody cares. I'm not. I don't mean this as a diss to Brian Cage, right? Like, you know, I done gave the smoke to Brian Cage plenty of times, but I'm not even intending this as a put down of Brian Cage. I'm just talking facts. Who is out here talking about Brian Cage other than his wife? Nobody's talking about Brian Cage, and it's not for lack of being put on TV. So I'd rather see Ricky Starks. Okay, when I get into conversations about people who are underused in AEW, names like Ricky Starks come up. Okay, because I'd like to see more from Ricky Starks. Who, other than Melissa Santos, is out here saying that they want to see more of Brian Cage? I don't hear nobody saying it. So, you know, again, she's being a great wife. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to hold your husband down and be like, yo, he needs to get more opportunities. He can be so great. You should hear the promos he cuts in the kitchen, right? Like, that's you know, that's the right thing to do. Okay, good for you. Be a good wife. But come on, bro. Like, it is what it is. You've served it to us. We tasted it and said, I'll have what's next.
Yep. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right. Anything else outside the ring that we want to hit on this week?
No, outside the ring, no. I got a fan question. We can either get to it or push it off a week so we can
yeah. So definitely. So I love this idea. So what we want to do, guys, we do have our from the fans section. We're not going to do it this week because the video got we had to get taken down because of the technical difficulties. So we're not going to go with the fan questions this week, but we still want your fan questions. Drop them in at the bottom of this video. But we actually want to pose a question to you, and we're going to drop this question on you, and then we want you to just drop your thoughts on this question down in the comments below this video, and you know, we'll respond to some of the best ones. All right. So BQ, what are you thinking you want to ask the fans this week?
All right, so we're going to keep this one simple, but this is something we're going to come up with every week. You know, throw a direct question out to you guys and get your thoughts. This is something that I haven't talked about a whole lot, but it I wouldn't say it bugs me on the same level as We Own the Night and the Red and all that, the stuff I usually complain about. But this is something that has been bubbling in my head lately for a couple of months now. Do you think Impact Wrestling needs a new ring announcer? Now, much love to David Penzer. I'm not putting him down. I listened to his podcast. He has shown up there's several times. I would actually love for him to be on commentary, to be totally honest with you. He did that one TNA show and sounded really, really good. I think he did the play-by-play on it, if I remember correctly. I don't remember who was with him, but I remember he sounded excellent on there, and I would rather him do that. But as a ring announcer, I've been thinking about this lately, and I even thought about it more when I was watching AEW All Out, and I was listening to Justin Roberts, who I really think is the best in the business right now. And I mean, he has this way of making all these matches feel big and just these big fight feels, to where I think we're kind of at a point with David Penzer now where he sounds a little bit more like when you're a kid and you're wrestling with your friends and someone is imitating the ring announcer. You know, like, come into the ring, Brian Myers, you know, like it just doesn't sound big fight feel to me. And I think there's a lot of people out there, you know, like we're talking about Melissa Santos. She did Lucha Underground. She was excellent.
Yes.
You know, JoJo's out there, right? Isn't she done with WWE, Bray Wyatt's girlfriend?
I don't think so. She hasn't been on WWE TV in forever.
I feel like she's out of the company. Excellent. There was another one at Shao Guerrero's out there, pretty good. I think she did Women of Wrestling, and then she's done a lot of independent stuff. And it showed the talent is out there because AEW they've had multiple ring announcers. Like sometimes they'll have Dasha Gonzalez, or like they've had a few that they've used when Justin Roberts is not available. And it's like the talent is out there. And then, I know it sounds really disrespectful to David Penzer, but he's an older guy. And when you're producing television, there's some young talent out there that, again, I know I sound really disrespectful to him, and I'm not trying to be, but a little more pleasing to the eye. You know what I mean? I just feel like there's, Justin Roberts, he's a good looking young guy. And then there's some very attractive ladies out there who are very good at their job. So to me, it's one of the things that makes Impact sound a little indie right now, is that I think the ring announcing could be a lot better. So curious your guys' thoughts. I know I have a lot of opinions of little things like that where people are like, I don't care. I've never even noticed. Like, I'm aware of that. I'm blame it on the military. They teach me from day one to care about the little details. So sorry, but just curious you guys'
me
thoughts.
Personally, I that's one of those details. Unless the ring announcer is bad, I'm not even going to notice. I'm not even going to notice unless the ring announcer is bad. But you're right though. You do notice like little things when certain ring announcers put their touch on things. Like I certainly remember when I think of David Penzer, I think of Sting from the 90s. Sting. You know what I mean? But for a while when he came back and started doing this for Impact, he did that same inflection on every single person. And some of the ones that are really good, you really do notice the way they do certain ones. Like the guy for WWE would go, the rated R superstar.
Right.
And then like Justin Roberts is John Cena. That was really good. It's now a John Moxley. So
yeah. And the Kevin Owens that Brandy Rhodes used to do.
Yeah. So you listen, a ring announcer, I think definitely can add something. When I say something that they need, it can't hurt. It can't hurt to upgrade your ring announcer. I think ring announcer is definitely something that's fun. I used to do a pre-show warm-up for a talk show. When I would I should actually post this video on my, if you guys follow my my Twitter page at Talking About Pod, I'll post a video of me introducing the talk show host for the talk show that I worked for. It was fun, but like stuff like that, you never realize how like your little inflections or the way you say things can actually get people more into the show and that type of stuff. So, at first, when you first mentioned it, my initial thought was that I don't know if this is something Impact necessarily needs because it's something I don't necessarily notice. But now that we're talking about it, I could see how that could be something that could make the show a little more fun. So, yeah. So tell us what you think. That's the whole purpose. Drop it down in the comments. All right. Let's get into this episode of Impact. All right, let's see what we got here. What will happen on Impact just 9 nights away from Victory Road? The action starts now. Knockouts Tag Team Championship, Rosemary and Havoc versus Tasha Steelz with Savannah Evans. Following Tasha Steelz' blindside attack on Rosemary last week, the Demon Assassin is out for revenge. Rosemary locks in upside down to gain control in the early going. Rosemary launches herself off the top rope, but Tasha avoids the incoming drop kick. Tasha hits a step-up bulldog for an early 2 count. Tasha baits her into the corner, but Rosemary comes back out to hit the spear for the win. Knockouts Tag Team Champion Rosemary defeats Havoc with Tasha Steelz and Savannah Evans. After the match, Savannah distracts Decay, allowing Tasha to steal the tag team titles. What do you think about this?
All right, so first of all, I refuse to believe that Rosemary calls that move the upside down. I refuse. I feel that Josh Matthews came up with that on air and they ran with it. I refuse to believe. I refuse to believe that the most creative person in Impact calls a move the upside down. I can't believe it. Anyway, the right person won this match. Decay God, the guys got a win last week. So I mean, Decay's starting to get some wins, and as the females should, they're the champions. But there was a lot of time for a while they were just taking a lot of losses, and the right person won here in my opinion. I like the angle after. Actually, I don't know if I like it. It was just a little. There's been a lot of angles in wrestling where someone steals the belts, but it just added something, a little extra something to this feud.
Yeah.
To piss off the baby faces more. So I'm good with that. One thing that I sent this tweet out the other day, and I really feel that Impact I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, but I think it really showed this episode how much diversity is lacking in the Impact product. Like, it's a good show. I really thought this was a good show. I saw the card. I was like, this show looks boring, and I liked the show. But Rosemary wins with the spear. First of all, I don't think the girls ever look good doing spears. Camille does it in NWA. I don't think it's ever looked good when she does it. Caitlyn back in the WWE doesn't wrestle anymore. Used to use it. I don't think it looks good when the females do it. Just not trying to be sexist or anything, but there's just some moves that work. And
I'm not trying. I'm just saying.
No, I know. I'm sure some people are going to take me as being that way. I just don't like. I don't like the move. Period. I've never liked it. But Rosemary wins with a spear. Fast forward to the end of the night. The last match of the night ended with a spear also. And one of the featured wrestlers in the segments here, Rhino, also wins with the spear. So chances are we're going to see him hit the spear here soon because they're semi-repackaging him. I don't know what you want to call what they're doing. And then we have a couple matches to end with distractions. It was just like, but when we see the DDT, the spear, we have 3 people that win with the spear. We have at least 2 that I could think of that win with the DDT. There's 3 that win with cutters. And we can see these moves on every single wrestling show. It doesn't matter what you watch. And that's where I'm just saying we lack of diversity. I can only hear Jim Cornette going off saying, well, you won with the spear in the beginning of the match. How are you going to use it again later in the night? That's one of those things when you're putting together. And I've learned this as a fan listening to a lot of podcasts where people work behind the scenes, that you can't use up all your moves early in the show, because then once you get to the main event, you can't use the same moves from earlier because there's no difference from what you just watched. And I pointed this out on the last Impact Plus show, or it was 2 Impact Plus shows ago, that Tommy Dreamer and then Diener in 2 matches in a row both won with their DDT. And I was like, how are you going to finish 2 matches in a row with the same exact move? And I'm seeing it here too. I'm seeing multiple people win with the same move in an episode. So that's probably going to be my pet peeve for here for a little while.
Yeah.
That has been what I've been pointing out. Like, where's the cool finishers in Impact? Where's the cool names? Like the upside down. Like, where's the cool names? Yeah,
I would agree that the Impact Wrestling product needs an infusion of cool, right? Like, they don't have a whole lot of things or people on this roster that trend, right? That trend, in social media, right? Like, Chris Bay is cool. Like I said a million times, to me, Chris Bay is the leader of the new school. Give this guy all the opportunities to be what he is. We can see it. Get behind him. Let him do his thing. Josh Alexander. I think people see Josh Alexander and they love him for what he is. I think, bro, if Josh Alexander was in WWE, they would be doing some Kurt Angle type shit with him right now. And I feel like Impact needs to just, get off their butts and up the production value, and just really, you don't have to ask Josh Alexander to do anything that's really different, right? Like, for example, when his music hits, make him wait. Make him wait like 5, maybe 10 seconds before you hit the stage. Add a little bit of ambiance lighting to his entrance. You know what I mean? And just let him do his thing. He doesn't have to change much, but just make it feel more big time. You know what I mean? But people, when you start diving into like certain little rabbit holes around certain talent, you can see that certain people do have followings. But you're right. There's not a lot in Impact Wrestling that really engages people, that people tweet about like unprompted, right? Like I said, I just named 2 things that I think are pretty cool in Impact Wrestling. If you follow Jordan Grace on Twitter, she's actually really, she's really funny. She has like a lot of like witty tweets and stuff like that. But and Tasha Steelz, Tasha Steelz is really cool. But this is a perfect example, right? Like, they've got her stealing the tag team belts. And when I saw her steal those tag team belts, my first thought was like, yo, maybe it's time for her to move past the tag team belts, right? Is it just going to be a thing where Tasha Steelz rotates tag team partners and, keeps going after the tag team belts because they don't want to do anything more important with her? And again, I get it. It's tough because Deonna Purrazzo is the Knockouts champion. So it's like, what are you going to do with her? But do something. Do something else. She doesn't have to be going. It doesn't have to be either you're in a tag team or you're challenging for the Knockouts title. Right? Like it shouldn't be that. You can have a separate program where you're building this character, building this star. Again, Tasha Steelz is another one, right? Like, she is cool, but they're not, in all of these cases, Impact is not promoting the people that are cool, right? You know what I mean? They're too busy, like you always said, reminding you that AJ Styles wrestled here to find the next AJ Styles, right? The product does need an infusion of coolness, and it has some cool people on it, right? But I don't know that it has cool people or people who are in tune with what's cool, right? Like pushing and promoting the right things. You know what I mean? Like, as we're talking about this, I'm like, yo, Tasha Steelz should get more TV time, or like do things with her online and promote them, stuff like that, because she's the type of person that's going to make your product seem cool. Same thing with Chris Bay, right? Again, like people that the masses will respond to, you need to utilize those people and stop letting people name moves the upside down when they're not the upside down. Did they used to call that like a tarantula?
That's what WWE that Tajiri used, was a tarantula.
Yeah, same move though, right?
Yeah, same exact move.
Which one sounds better, the upside down or the tarantula?
Right. And it's just it's a branding thing too,
Yes. So yes, Impact could use in so many areas an infusion of just of what's current, right? Like, and what's fresh.
You brought up the Josh Alexander thing where you were saying about the entrance. Like, all the entrances look exactly the same. Like, they're all, I want to say Decay and Violent by Design is a little bit different, but everything, the cameras are the same angles for every entrance.
Yeah.
There's no.
And these are things that just take effort. You don't have to go outside the Impact zone. Like, you just need somebody who knows how to switch the color lighting and time it and whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you just need somebody who knows how to do the production. I remember I went back and I watched every episode of Monday Nitro. And that was like my goal when I first signed up for WWE Network. and because I stopped watching at some point when I was a kid. And the point where Vince Russo took over Nitro, you could see the production values up instantly. Little things like what we just talked about, like, why aren't we doing more when these people come out with these entrances? Why aren't we dropping the light so more people's interesting? Spotlighting people, pyro
like Moose.
Here or there.
Like Moose's entrance is so different. That's another one, because that one is very different.
Again, and if you can do Moose's entrance like that, if you can do Decay's entrance like that, right? Then you can do something fun with Deonna Purrazzo, who is the person you're pushing more than anybody in your company right now. And what do they do with her entrance? She just walks out to the ring and goes. You know what I mean? Like, and so and she's dope, right? She's dope. So it works, but you could do more. You could do more to present her, which again is part of the fan experience. And that's at the root of what we're talking about here. Impact needs to think of the fans more. I think Impact is focused on, and you've said this before, I think in a lot of ways, Impact is happy just putting on a good wrestling show. And just putting on a good wrestling show is fine. But if you want to have people come out of their house, go in their pockets, and be excited to come to your show, you need to think about the fans more in everything you produce. There it is.
Great.
All right. So the back to the show. Ace Austin tries to persuade Scott D'Amore into putting the Impact World Champion Christian Cage in a match next week, just days before their title clash at Victory Road. D'Amore sees right through him and instead announces a huge 10-man tag where Christian Cage and Ace Austin must team with 4 partners of their choosing. Ace Austin recruits Madman Fulton and Brian Myers as his first 2 partners. Eric Young, next segment. Eric Young baptizes Rhino in the holy waters of change, bringing his recent punishment for failing to recapture the Impact World Tag Team titles to an end. All right. So they had the announcement of the 10-man tag match. We don't really dive into that. All right. But you're a big Violent by Design guy. What did you think of what they did with Rhino here?
I wouldn't say I'm a big Violent by Design guy. I like the potential of what they can do. I'm really into what they're doing with Rhino. I'm intrigued. I'm starting to believe all they're going to do is have him come out with a new jacket based off this segment. But what? I'm baptized. I'm and he just comes out of the same Rhino gear, just has a jacket when he comes to the ring. But I will say about this, in this little video, for the first time they were all dressed the same. They all had black, they all black. They looked like a team. And when you got Rhino, back when it was Eric Young and Diener, I thought they looked really cool coming out together. And then you added Joe Doring with the cowboy hat and the furry coat. I still don't understand what that's about. No one's explained it. And then Rhino coming out in his traditional,
he's cold in his little undies and his cowboy boots.
There we go. It's got to be what it is. So, and then Rhino comes out in the same thing he's been wearing since ECW. So I'm just like, this just looks like you're just throwing dudes together. And AEW has some stables like that where they're just like, hey, let's just throw you together, and then there's no cohesion within the group. So I liked the way they looked, and I'm hoping that presentation works on TV. They need Eric Young to wrestle badly. I don't know when he's coming back, but they need him badly. He's been an MVP for this company because he has been hurt, and he is still showing up to television and doing promos and going out to the ring, because BBD would have been dead in the water if Eric Young's like, whoops, I'm injured, we got to take me off TV. They would have been done. So he's really one of the MVPs in my opinion, but I'm still intrigued with this, and I was intrigued with the 10-man tag stuff. I'll just throw that out there.
If you could watch one act for one segment, would you rather watch VBD, MVP, or BBD?
Or DDP?
Or DDP?
Probably
2021.
Probably MVP. Yeah. I've brought this up before, dude. I did DDP yoga, and I swear that's the biggest scam in the world. I have it's the easiest workout I've ever done.
Really?
And I stand by that. I think everyone with their,
or did you just do like one beginners?
No. I did it every day to get my money's worth. I just fast forwarded to the hardest, or I should say skipped on the DVD to the hardest workout possible. And it was, I don't want to say easy, but it was what I was doing for myself has always been more demanding than that. So,
my wife is kind of like that. Like my wife likes high intensity workouts. Like I suggested yoga to her. Like my wife, she used to love spinning classes. And she would go so hard with the spinning classes that she like injured herself, like just going OD with the spinning. Yes, like my wife, she likes intense workouts, and I suggested yoga to her, and so she did yoga, and she was like, "Yo, this shit ain't for me." She's like, I need to sweat,
right.
Yeah. And so that's totally believable. Some people just like, they're not here for the stretch until you feel it.
Yeah. Just, I'm sure for some people that's great, but
yeah,
nothing for me.
Yeah. Also, if given that choice, I think I would probably also take MVP. But I did say in 2021 as a qualifier, if we could somehow get 1997 DDP in there and we could get Kimberly, oh, bro.
There we go.
So, sidebar, my favorite Attitude Era wrestling woman, Kimberly Page, by far. By far, bro. She smoked everybody. Okay, I'm sorry. Back to business. All right. We had Impact World Tag Team Champion Carl Anderson with Doc Gallows versus Rich Swann in a bunkhouse brawl. I've always wanted to know what the hell a bunkhouse brawl is. I mean, it's pretty much just like a street fight or a hardcore match, but like, who lives in a bunkhouse? Like, what are we talking about here? Is a bunkhouse a jail? What is a bunkhouse? You know, you're in the military. What's a bunkhouse?
I don't have a clue, dude. Let us know in the comments, folks. You let us know what a bunkhouse is. I don't have a clue.
Yeah. Are we talking about like summer camp? Like what is a bunkhouse? All right. Rich Swann seeks vengeance on Carl Anderson after the Good Brothers sent Willie Mack to the hospital just 2 weeks ago. There are no disqualifications, no countouts, and anything goes in what promises to be a wild bunkhouse brawl. Swann quickly takes Gallows out of the equation with a dive to the outside. Swann sidesteps Anderson. Gallows, he sidesteps Anderson, sending him crashing through a wooden board. Swann delivers a pair of low blows to both Good Brothers. Swann falls victim to the numbers game, though, allowing Anderson to turn the tide with a vertical suplex on the exposed ramp. Gallows hooks the leg of Swann, giving Anderson the chance to capitalize with a big spine buster. Swann heads to the top, but Gallows pushes him, and then Anderson hits the gun stun onto a table for the win. What'd you think about this?
All right, so a bunkhouse brawl, it's what Impact has been doing forever. It's a hardcore match. It's a no DQ match. It's old school rules. Like I didn't feel anything different. And what I used to like about old school TNA, and I know I was dissed old school TNA, and I was also, again, very upset when they played a fucking old match again tonight. I mean, on this episode. But I always liked the creativity between some of the matches. Like, people used to always say, "Oh, there's always a gimmick match with Impact," you know. But as long as it's a good, fun gimmick match and it's original, like, I'm all for it. I don't know if you saw on, I think it was on Dark Elevation or Dark, Diamante and Big Swole had what was called a 3 strikes match. And the rules are a little hard to explain. Even the announcers were struggling to explain it. But what it was, it's a 2 out of 3 falls match. You can either win one of the first 2 falls by pin or submission. But if you win by pin, you cannot win the next fall by pin. You have to win by submission or knockout.
Okay. And
with every, again, they were struggling to it. Even Excalibur could not put this in the words. If you win by pin, your opponent also cannot win by a pinfall. Okay. So you're eliminating the pin. Once a pin has happened, it's eliminated. No one can win with the pin anymore. And
I
then
need
the
that
next
meme of like all the numbers going around my head and going.
Yeah. So it's almost impossible to put into words, but it was, once you understand the concept of the match, you're like, yo, this was actually really creative and really different. So I like gimmick matches when you come up with something new and it's just creative and it's fun, but we've just been going back to this well of the hardcore match for entirely too long now. With this being said, I really like the match. I love the way Swann was just taking out both guys by himself in the beginning. And I think they protected Swann well with the way the match ended, because, again, Carl Anderson is the lackey of Kenny Omega, who just beat him several months ago. So you can't have him lose clean to Kenny's lackey, because at that point, how the hell do you build Swann back? So it worked. But I loved this look for Rich Swann. I loved his demeanor. This was what was missing from the feud with Kenny Omega. The way that Swann was being presented, the way that he was acting, the way he's talking, the way he's wrestling, like, this anger within him was missing from that whole feud. And I thought him coming out dressed in black and in the street clothes kind of gear really, really worked for him, because Swann is a smaller guy. And even though at Bound for Glory, when he made his return last year, he actually buffed up a lot more than how he looked when he first came to Impact. I think people forget that because now we're used to seeing him, but he came back in excellent shape. Yeah. But I learned I was listening to an interview with Fuego del Sol, this past week, and he said, I'm a smaller wrestler, so that's why I started wearing the mask, because someone had told me if you put on the mask, it's going to hide the fact that you're small. Like, people are going to focus more on the mask than your stature, and they kind of pointed out like that worked for Rey Mysterio. People don't realize how small he actually is, but there's other distractions in how he looks to where you don't really focus on it. Imagine, but if you have a really, really short, the same with Darby Allin with his makeup and everything, you don't know that this dude's like 5'4" because of the way he looks, the face paint, everything. If he came out there without that, you would see a tiny little dude out there, much more than you do now. So Rich Swann is a smaller guy, and I think with him just wearing the wrestling trunks and the standard, he looks smaller than he should. And when he was wearing this outfit, like, I was completely distracted by the fact that he was a smaller wrestler.
Ooh, wow.
And again, because I heard the Fuego interview, and I kind of tied it into watching Rich Swann. I was like, yo, him wearing that jersey and the shorts made him look, in my opinion, bigger than he actually is. And he looked more menacing because of it. You know what I mean? So
I absolutely loved the way that this match looked. Like, Rich Swann in the shorts and basketball jersey, like, I thought it was a nice look. It was a change of pace. And by the way, Rich Swann came in at number 10 on the PWI 500. I'm not like
did he really?
PWI guy? Yeah.
Wow.
And when I thought about it, I was like, you know what? I think he deserved it. Rich Swann, again, this is Impact's fault. This is Impact's fault. I keep saying it, man. I say this every time we talk about Rich Swann. Rich Swann has got receipts. If Rich Swann got signed back to WWE next month, you know how much Rich Swann content they will be playing week after week. Rich Swann has a catalog of great matches in Impact Wrestling.
Yeah.
And he had a great run as champion. Like, like the way he lost to Kenny Omega, I wasn't a big fan of that. I mean, it wasn't like Kofi losing to Brock Lesnar, but the way he lost at the end, like, it was very dominating, I felt. But Rich Swann had, I thought, a great year, winning the championship, running with the title, and, having the nice feud with Kenny Omega. I thought he should have beat Morrissey. And then maybe you have Morrissey come back and beat him. But I was like, yo, Rich Swann is established. He's established. Like, don't just throw him back in some other spot. Like, let him go back and have another winning streak.
Yeah.
And then he can put him on another winning streak, and then he can challenge whoever is the next, top contender. As a matter of fact, I'd put Rich Swann on a winning streak right now, and I'd have him be the person that Josh Alexander beats to get his title shot. And I would not let anybody beat Rich Swann in however many months until you're going to give Josh Alexander his title shot. Him and Rich Swann need to also not lose. So Christian Cage, Rich Swann, and Josh Alexander need to run through the roster until they converge. You know what I mean?
Damn, I love it.
And it makes sense because Rich Swann is established. He has a great catalog of matches. He's been the champion. Okay? Like, don't F this up. You already kind of F it up because you don't promote this guy. And he has the catalog. Okay? So I love seeing him in this type of environment because it's just a reminder that he can do it all. I don't think he should have lost to Carl Anderson because I don't think Carl Anderson has done anything to make himself seem special while he's in Impact Wrestling. I don't think Carl Anderson has earned the cachet to be beating a Rich Swann. Okay? I feel how I feel about Rich Swann's, his past issues. Hopefully they're all in his past. And that has certainly made me feel a certain way about, whether or not I feel like I can root for Rich Swann. But as far as what he does on television, like, honestly, him being ranked number 10 in the PWI 500, that reminded me a little bit about, yes, he deserved that. He totally deserved that. So as much, and think about it, there's a lot of people who we try to hype up, right? Like, there's a lot of people who we try to sell you on why they deserve more or why they are good, yada, 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 yada. I don't have to sell you. Just go. Just go. Google Rich Swann versus and see what comes up. Okay. And like, so, so again, like, Rich Swann's done the work. He deserves to be treated as such. I don't know if his contract is coming to an end and, whatever, but like, once you have a made guy, you got to use him, man. Like I said this before, one of the greatest things that John Cena did, right? John Cena worked on top of WWE for like 12 years straight. But towards the end of that time, he made it his mission to put over new guys. He let Kevin Owens beat him on his first night in WWE while he was still NXT champion. He put over Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. He put over AJ Styles. Like, what's the point of building somebody up if they're not gonna make other people better? And you could argue that he did that with Morrissey, but was that worth it? Was that a worthy use of Rich Swann's whatever he's built up? So I just think that there's you got to protect certain people, and like losing one match isn't the end of the world, but I'm just saying I don't think that a Carl Anderson has he doesn't really resonate. Like there's like Carl Anderson's ceiling is being a good brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
being a good brother and let me sell you some stuff and we were so great in New Japan. I'm on AEW. I'm in the elite. Like do you see Carl Anderson being like somebody that's really going to be somebody out there waving the flag for Impact Wrestling?
No. And he's the guy who usually takes the pin in all the matches, whether it's AEW or Impact. And
we're talking about a guy who's on AEW television every week with the Impact title. And I still don't see him as a representative of Impact Wrestling because I just don't, I don't. So, yeah, so again, that was my thought here. This was a good match because I just learned that when Rich Swann is in a match, it's going to be a good match, right? Like, we should know this by now. So this was good, right? This was good. Like I said, I don't think that, Carl Anderson was really somebody that should be beating Rich Swann, but whatever, it is what it is. I'm sure this is going somewhere else. All right. After Knockouts champion Deonna Purrazzo brutally attacked Mickie James during her in-ring return at NWA 73, Mickie says Purrazzo is going to find out what hardcore country is all about. That was a nice little promo. What did you think of Mickie James's promo here?
I was digging it, and it's going the direction we thought it would, where Mickie James will probably challenge her at Bound for Glory.
Yeah. Same thing. I like that. I like the promo here. Mickie James is dope, man. She's dope. One thing I love about veteran wrestlers is they understand that sometimes less is more, and that you don't have to, scream and cry every single promo to get the emotion through. And I see that with a lot of veteran wrestlers who are like, okay, hey, I've been out of the business. I still watch it. And I know that this could be better if we did it like this instead of like this. And Mickie, she's who knew Mickie James was a great promo, right? You know what I mean? But she just really emphasized that, hey, no matter what you think of me, there's this hardcore country side of me. And that, which you can find on Impact Plus, right? You can go look up all the hardcore country stuff. And like she emphasized that hardcore country is a different character, right? Like that she emphasized that this is a different side of me that I'm going to be bringing to Deonna Purrazzo. Yeah. And I really like that. Like that added, that added something to the mix, like her insisting that Deonna's made this personal and now I'm going to another place. And so I just thought that was a really dope promo from Mickie James. This is going to be good because Mickie's a good wrestler. She's a great wrestler, as a matter of fact. And Deonna Purrazzo is doing some of the best work in the world right now. So, so this is going to be good. All right, we got Matthew Rehwaldt challenging Trey Miguel to a match next week. I actually like this little promo he was doing. He was like painting, and then talking about how Trey Miguel, I noticed what you're doing and it's almost a masterpiece. This guy's a really good promo. He's a really good promo. Like there's something about him that I don't love. I don't know if it's the in-ring, if it's something about the personality that's just a little quirky to me. But I love his voice. He has a great voice. He has a great promo voice, and he's a really good talker, right? He's a really good talker. So I like this guy as a talent, and I'm very interested in what he should do. That said, he has no business beating Trey Miguel.
Yeah, and Trey Miguel and Jake something are in this category of we should be pushed as new faces of Impact Wrestling, and we're not even on the show half the time.
Right. Yeah. Woo! Don't get me started on that.
Yeah. Well.
All right. All right. So Impact World Champion Christian Cage recruits the X Division Champion Josh Alexander to be on his 10-man tag for next Thursday. Alexander says he is honored to join forces with the Instant Classic, but says he would be even more honored to step into the ring against him one day.
Laid the groundwork. I gotta say this. I didn't realize how tall Christian was until he was looking at Josh Alexander. Who I was like, whoa, like he's taller than him. I mean, that you don't think when you're looking at Christian, you're looking at a heavyweight wrestler, but you do when you look at Josh Alexander. You know, he's a little thinner, but yeah.
No, I totally agree. And I like that though. I like that because I think it adds to the Josh Alexander kind of, his aura a little bit. Anybody who knows a wrestler, like an amateur style wrestler, a lot of these guys aren't huge guys, right? But you know what they know, okay? And they don't got to be huge hulking dudes. They can still twist you into a pretzel, right? And again, that's a big thing of what adds to Josh Alexander's mystique as a badass, which is like, I don't have to have crazy promos. You know what I can do.
Yep.
And so they're getting back to it. And by the way, this reconfirms what I thought and what I wanted, which is that they were building to Josh Alexander and Kenny Omega. They were going to go with Josh Alexander to be the one to take the title off of Kenny Omega, but for whatever reason, AEW decided to pivot, and I don't know if it was that they didn't want Kenny Omega defending all those titles anymore, or if they just decided that for this last pay-per-view, in order to make that a sellable main event, they had to have Christian get a victory over Kenny Omega. And so that's why Christian ended up with the Impact World title. For some reason they decided to pivot, but that definitely reconfirms that this was leading to Josh Alexander building his way up to becoming the one to bring the Impact World Championship back from the AEW guys.
Absolutely. I 100% believe that now, that the Adam Page angle, because he needed to take time off and they had to replace him with Christian. They had to find a way to make Christian credible, and they completely pivoted and probably had no problem doing it because they didn't want Kenny Omega to lose to Impact talent to begin with. But I'm very confident saying he's the one that's going to take the title off Christian.
Yeah. Next we got a promo from Rohit Raju that I absolutely love.
Dude.
Rohit Raju, this dude, when they give him time to talk, when they give him time to wrestle, when has he failed you?
Never. Right? That's why he's still around.
You may not see this guy and think, yo, this guy is like my big star. But again, when have you gone wrong with Rohit Raju? Like they booked this guy, for the first 5-6 years he was in Impact as basically a jobber, but when you let him talk, he delivers. When you let him wrestle and work, he delivers. And he did it again right here. He did a promo saying, my gosh, he said Chelsea Green, she wanted it and I gave it to her, and I'm a real man.
Oh my!
I was like, man, he smoked that promo, and then the Shear's just in the background going.
He's amazing.
I thought that was dope. All right, so Chris Bay versus David Finlay. David Finlay looked to even the score with Chris Bay after Chris Bay cheated to defeat him just 2 weeks ago. The brawl spilled to the outside in the opening minutes, and Chris Bay evade and then gain control with a flying elbow across the back. Bay soars through the air, hitting a crossbody for 2. Finlay counters the art of finesse into a belly to back suplex. Finlay rolls through, hits a quick side backbreaker, then locks in a series of submissions. Bay hits an impressive spine buster a la the Machine Gun for a near fall. Bay tries to cheat once again, but this time Juice Robinson returns and pushes his feet off the ropes. Finley rolls up Bay to score the victory. After the match, the Bullet Club's Haikilo makes his shocking Impact debut and assaults Finjuice. Bay adds to the assault as he traps Robinson's legs inside a steel chair and stomps on it. What'd you think about this?
It's a Hikaleo.
Hikaleo. Yes, that's what I said.
So,
totally is what I said.
No, the match was excellent. It was a lot of fun. I go back to what I said a few weeks ago, that he looks too much like Kofi Kingston to me wearing those colors. Because those are predominant New Day colors. So I think now that he's part of the Bullet Club, should wear something a little bit darker. Maybe doing his hair a little bit different, because he wants to find a way to differentiate himself, in my opinion. But I was never familiar with Hikaleo until he wrestled on AEW one day against what's his fuck Murder Hawk Monster. That was his name. Lance Archer. So he came and had a match against him. This is Haku's son.
Yeah.
I liked what I saw of him. I thought he was a really cool opposing figure. And again, that was another guy who came to AEW from another company and lost. So there's a trend there that AEW wins when it comes to the Forbidden Door. But I thought he was a cool person to bring in, because I was thinking, like, they haven't done enough to connect Chris Bay to the Bullet Club quite yet. And now Jay White's gone. So
yeah,
now what is it? Just a t-shirt? So when they bring Hikaleo out there, and then it's like, okay, well, now someone else from the Bullet Club wants to associate himself with him, it adds a little more credibility to his status in that faction. Right. So I thought it was all pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I love it. Totally agree. I think that is important to like you said, reestablish Chris Bay's association with the Bullet Club, and sending him some Bullet Club muscle. I think that helps a lot, because Chris Bay can still be the feature, and now you've given him a goon. And by the way, again, Impact, this doesn't mean you got to put him in the title match right now. Just let Chris Bay and his goon just do some stuff. Sit out there, just keep beating people up. Eventually give him a title shot, and it's okay if he loses, because bad guys don't have to win and have all the titles. The bad guy's job is to put the good guy in jeopardy. Let him go around and do that. All right.
But I just want to say stupid distraction finish at the end. And if Tasha Steelz and Chris Bay would have both won tonight, they would have both won with fucking cutters. So it goes back to what I said. Everyone has the same moves. We'll continue.
Scott D'Amore mediates the contract signing between dominant X Division champion Josh Alexander and the most decorated competitor in X Division history, Chris Sabin. Both competitors show each other respect and shake hands after signing on the dotted line. Impact World Champion Christian Cage steps in to recruit Sabin for his team next week. Sabin, immediately agrees. That was interesting. Inside Swingers Palace, TJP put money on Steve Macklin for his upcoming bout against Petey Williams. TJP asked Falaba and No Way for their help with something. Just as they're leaving, Su Yung and Kimberly arrive. They kind of look around the corner, and we don't see what they're going to do. They're probably going to turn Alicia into a zombie. Are you okay? Do you want to step in and try to save Alicia?
I hated this segment like with passion. The actual Swingers Palace thing, hated it.
Is it just because it was Swingers Palace?
Yeah, I just thought it was the whole segment was dumb. I just wrote here in my notes, stupid, one word.
Yes, that was accurate. Yeah. All right, we had Steve Macklin versus Petey Williams. The intense feud between Steve Macklin and Petey Williams explodes in this heated grudge match. Macklin slowed the pace by catching Petey in midair with a vertical suplex. Macklin continues his dominance with a modified backbreaker. Petey hits a sliding baseball drop kick, followed by a slingshot head scissors on the floor. Just as Petey is going for the Canadian Destroyer, TJP leads No Way's conga line to the ring. Macklin capitalizes off the distraction with Mayhem for All to win. What do you think about this?
This was the other distraction finish of the night, 2 matches in a row, distraction finishes. So that's what I'm saying. Same finishers, same general layouts of the matches. Just need more diversity. Steve Macklin, I've been saying several times, is in my top 4 or 5 favorite wrestlers in Impact. So I thought I like No Way's music a lot, by the way, but I thought this is just a very odd way to set up this weird TJP versus PD Williams feud. Sorry, my cat just knocked something over, so that was kind of loud. It's just a very weird TJP versus PD Williams feud. I thought he was just around to put Macklin over, and now he's going to continue in another feud when Trey Miguel and Jake something again should be getting that time, not PD Williams. But I think Impact is really wants to show people who does the Canadian Destroyer. So I really felt that Steve Macklin just needed a decisive win here because he didn't get a decisive win at the Impact Plus show, and then he doesn't get a decisive win again. Like he should have beat the shit out of PD Williams here. So,
well, eventually Macklin is gonna, win the feud with PD Williams, right?
Yeah.
Like a guy, PD Williams, is a great talent, but at this point, right, you don't think they're going to be building him for like a title run. Macklin is a guy who they are going to eventually build up to being some sort of big challenger, and so eventually he's going to win the feud with PD Williams. So whatever they do tonight is just a device to further to Macklin ultimately winning, because out of the two, he has to be the one that they see a future in, right? Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be too worried about that. All right. Gia Miller interviews Eddie Edwards ahead of his main event match against Moose tonight, following last week's events that saw Moose and W. Morrissey deliver a 2-on-1 beatdown to Edwards. Sami Callihan asked him if he's changed his mind about wanting his help. Edwards once again declines his offer when the Impact World Champion Christian Cage asked them both to be on his team in next week's 10-man tag. Edwards tells him that he must make a choice out of the two of them because he will never be on the same team as Sami Callihan. Moments later, W. Morrissey and Moose offer themselves to be on Ace Austin's team. All right, what you think about this?
I loved it all. Loved both segments very much. I think they are rushing a feud that could have been very special for Bound for Glory. Eddie didn't say, I will not team with Sami. I will not team with Sami. And then 3 weeks later, he's going to be teaming with Sami. So
right.
I think they should have dragged this out a lot more and had Moose and Morrissey really destroy some MFers before they really got to that point. I like the way the show ended. We'll get into that, but I didn't think it was to the point that Eddie should have been like, oh, you know what? Okay, I'm teaming up with Sami. Like it wasn't, it was a little forced, but I love the backstage stuff.
All right. So speaking of which, we had Moose with Morrissey versus Eddie Edwards. One of Impact Wrestling's most storied rivalries will have another chapter written as Moose and Eddie Edwards collide once again. Moose puts his power on display in the early going as he takes Edwards off his feet with a thunderous shoulder tackle. Edwards hits a series of chops to build momentum, but Moose shuts him down by driving him into the steel ring post. During the commercial break, Moose distracts the referee, allowing Morrissey to assault him at ringside with a big boot. Both men exchange strikes as Edwards gains control with a huge clothesline that turns Moose inside out. Edwards has the match won, but Morrissey puts his foot on the ropes. Edwards retaliates against Morrissey and dives into him with a burst of speed. Moose capitalizes off the distraction, connecting with the no jackhammer needed spear to win. After the match, a huge brawl breaks out involving the members of next week's 10-man tag. W. Morrissey and Moose double team Eddie Edwards when Alicia makes the save with a kendo stick. Morrissey is about to give her a choke slam, but Sami Callihan appears in the ring and hands Eddie Edwards the equalizer, a Louisville Slugger baseball bat. Edwards and Callihan join forces to clear the ring before agreeing to join Christian Cage on his team next week on Impact. I liked how they had, Edwards and Callihan, and they clanged the bats together to kind of, symbolize that they're agreeing to be on the same team. I thought that was dope. I like the visual with everybody standing in the ring with Christian Cage at the end.
The visual was great at the end. I had to laugh because there was a part at the end where Eddie Edwards tried to bump Alicia, and he actually hit her kind of hard. He was trying to get her attention to hold up because he was holding up his kendo stick and wanted her to hold hers up. Yeah. And he bumps her with his elbow, and he hit her pretty hard, but it was very obvious.
Yeah.
And very obvious that he was like, hold your kendo stick up. And then she, oh, okay. So dude, that was fucking funny. So if you go back and saw that part, it's funny. But you know what I noticed when Eddie, or actually what I felt when Eddie lost this match is that Impact has no problem beating the people who are signed long-term to the company. The ones who are like, okay, we signed a 3-year deal, all of a sudden they start fucking, they lose a lot. And, you know, Eddie's been taking several losses over the last couple of months. It's the ones who are on these short-term deals and shit like that. Oh, we don't want to beat these guys. So good main event. I love hearing the crowd sing. I wrote here in my notes, shut the fuck up to the announcers. Just let the crowd sing. I think they, you know, they just can't help themselves. But you know, again, the gun stun I meant to bring up earlier is a cutter. So
is that 3?
So that's 3 cutters. 3 potential cutters could have won because Chris Bay and Tasha Steelz also use the cutters.
Right.
And then so I meant to bring that up earlier. And then there's the spear that I've brought up many times throughout the show. You know, bookend spears, first match and last match. So boo on that. But the episode as a whole, loved it, and I really liked the way it looked when they went off the air.
Yeah. I got a question. What do you think is next after the 10-man tag? Like, where do you think it's going? Because I got to tell you, the interactions that Christian Cage had with some of these baby faces as he was recruiting them for his team, like with Chris Sabin and with Josh Alexander, there was a little like, hey, I want you to be on my team, but you better remember I'm the boss. That was, I felt like there was a little of that in this in their interaction. So do you think that this 10-man tag is a vehicle to set up some new feuds for Christian?
100%. That because Ace Austin's team has to win this match going into the victory road. They will win the match, and it'll be because Josh Alexander and Christian don't get on the same page.
Good point. Good point.
Almost positive.
I like that. All right, man. So you know, I like that. Did you have any more thoughts on the episode?
No, just it caught me by surprise. I thought it looked really boring on paper, and it was a good show. So it was easy to watch for me. It's a couple weeks in a row.
Man. You know, one thing you can count on Impact for is a solid show. Like that's just straight up. Throughout the pandemic, even with no fans, they were always putting on a solid show. Having fans back in the building has made this, you know, so much better. I wish that they were in a spot where they felt more comfortable taking a swing on some on booking a bigger venue for Bound for Glory. But, you know, we're getting Sam's Town Casino. You know, whoever is going to the show up, make it loud, make it fun. And, you know, we can't wait to watch it. So that's going to wrap up our Impact coverage for the show. We're recording this on Saturday, September 11th, which is obviously a famous and infamous American Day. You know, we didn't plan this, you know, pre-show, but I just want to, you know, ask you, and if you're not comfortable with it, we can definitely cut it. But, you know, what thoughts or, you know, memories do you have of the day 9/11?
I will say, so I was in the military for 1 year at this point. We were in peacetime up to that point. So no one was expecting anything like this to happen. And I'll just never forget showing up to work that morning. And the base was all my coworkers, you know, because on active duty, I did law enforcement and security. All my coworkers were in full gear and all this shit. I'm like, wow, is there an exercise going on? And then I kind of get to work and they're like, you know, I don't want to speak in military terminology, but basically said there's some shit going down. And, you know, I had a very cush job at the time to where I was just kind of working the visitor center, 6-hour shifts, 5 days a week. Like it was a job I applied for. And all of a sudden I turned to, by the end of the shift, I was on top of a Humvee behind a machine gun, and I'm sorry, my cat, I'm gonna kill this little shit. I was manning a machine gun by the end of the night at the main gate onto the base, and we had guys deploy within 48 hours downrange, and I worked many days in a row, very long 12-hour shifts, and a lot of people were very, very scared with what was to come for us. And But it is definitely a day. I'm not going to go super in depth with it and bore people, but it's something that I remember vividly. I think everyone remembers vividly and remembers where they were and where everything happened. But I can tell
what
you,
state were you in at the time? Where were you stationed?
California.
California. Okay. So
Yeah.
like so the experience for Californians, and not just a Californian, but a Californian in the military, I felt like that probably had to be like a little bit different, than over here on the East Coast.
Yeah, because I didn't even know we had the TV on in the visitor center where I was working, and I just saw a plane hit the building. I said, "What is that?" I was like, "Where is that?" Like it didn't dawn on me that because it was so far away on another side of the country, I just didn't think it was something that was happening anywhere near me. And they're like, "That's New York." I'm just like, because I wasn't really super familiar at that time with what the Twin Towers look like. But yeah, it's I don't remember. I want to say it was like 6 a.m. for me or something like that. But I showed up to work in like dress blues because that's where I worked, and my uniform was under my bed, curled up in a ball, and I had to go home and change. And I looked like absolute dog shit when I put it on. But yeah, it was a pretty wild day.
Yeah, I imagine, man. I imagine. Yeah, definitely like crazy day. I mean, for me, it was my freshman year of college, and I remember getting back to my room from my 8 o'clock class, and the TV was on, and I think my TV was on. It was on MTV. I think when I turned it on, it was on MTV. MTV, for all the people out there, it used to be this thing where they would play like music videos. But I think it was on MTV. But what I was looking at, appeared to be like a CNN type of feed. And I see this building smoking, and my first thought was like, it's not an accident. I was like, a building is no matter how tall a building is, a plane doesn't fly that low. I was like, there's no way that's an accident. And then I'm just watching and listening to the coverage. And as I'm watching and listening to the coverage, I see the second plane come in, and woo, just it's one of those things you'll never forget when you see it. And then at some point, like I had the thought in my head, like, man, like, what must it have been like for the people who were in that building? Like you look outside the window and like you don't have any time to react, to whatever it was you might have seen. It's just it's one of those things. As you I don't think anyone, no matter where you are, will ever forget, where we were on that day. I know that, like, for me, as a Black person, one of the things that really stuck out in the aftermath of that day was how comfortable a lot of people felt, just being very openly prejudiced and saying a lot of prejudiced things. And I think that, like, people people might think like, oh, well, like, hey, you're an American, you're this, but as a Black person, I'm obviously have heightened sensitivity to, like, prejudice, right? So when I see people being so comfortable throwing out certain terms and saying things, which was just seemed to be all the rage at that time, it really heightened the ugliness of humanity that can exist within us, even even though as Americans we all felt attacked, right? I still, I just thought it just exposed a lot of real, some of the rougher sides of people. And it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with for a lot of reasons. And yeah, again, it's a day that we all think of. And I'm grateful to, the men and women of our armed forces who, keep our country safe, or at least give us the illusion that we're safe. And yeah, man, like, it's just, wherever you are, whoever's out there listening, if anybody's in, the military, thank you guys all for your service. And yeah, like, I love America. We all love America. I'm proud to be an American. There's no other place I'd rather, have my home as a country. And yeah, 9/11 is one of them days where, it was all really tragic. And yeah, we'll never forget all the first responders, the people who ran into those burning buildings to save people. And yeah, so a bit of a somber note to kind of end the podcast on, but I think it deserved a little bit of attention on this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, BQ, tell the people where they can find you on social.
As always, at BQ Speaks on Twitter, and then I think we finally hit that 500 follower mark on the Impact Lounge Twitter, which is really what I was going for. But still follow it if you haven't already.
Very nice, very nice. You can find me at TW Talking About on your social media choice. Find me on Twitter, on Instagram, on the Fanbase app. Anything, tweet me. I tweet back. You can follow my podcast page at TW Talking About. I'm sorry, at Talking About Pod. And yeah, like I said, tweet me. I tweet back. I love to get in conversation with you. We talk about all the things that are going on in the wrestling world, live shows, all of that good stuff. No matter how you're listening to this, okay, share it with somebody. Write your comments below, leave your name and where you're from under your comments so we can give you a shout out when we read your question. Share this on somebody else's page, email it to them, send it to them in a text message, send it out on Twitter, tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's bring more people into the conversation. For BQ, I'm TW. Peace.